Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Martine Emmons is a transformational life coach who broke free from childhood abuse, sexual trauma, and overcame cancer to become a powerful force of healing and hope for others. Martine describes traumatic events as fierce emotional tsunamis. They can leave impending doom and destructive tidal waves of emotions that hit you when you least expect it. Martine helps her clients dive into the depths of their trauma and pain as she stands fiercely advocating for them to shine a light on those experiences and find the lesson in the pain. She serves as a beacon of hope that guides you to see the strength, lessons, and purpose that can be born from the pain. You can feel alive with purpose again when you awaken your dormant strength, step into your power with a sense of peace, and discover a new wave of hope with the right tools and support. Martine and her guests are here shining their lights today through empowering stories of hardship and transformation to inspire you to find hope and to see that there is a beautiful blue ocean of serenity, happiness, and fulfillment in your future. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Welcome to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything. And it got to me again a little bit. And we compromise nothing. The emotions still caught me a little bit today. I am so blessed to be here. And for those of you who don't know, my show is all about hope. And all my guests, including myself, we firmly believe that we can get back up from anything. And we are proof that we can get back up from anything. I was just telling my guests that I found a way to not be so emotional in the beginning. I guess that's kind of been out the window. So I'm real, y'all. So for those of you who don't know as well, my show is every second and fourth Friday of the month at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to my very special guest. And I'm so proud of her. She and I have been in the same community for a long time. Welcome, Teresa Myrick. Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, first of all, yes, we're all human. And, our stories are our stories. It happened. And sometimes it still is just like, oh, gosh, I can't believe I made it through that, right?
I know. Gosh.
It's all good. It's all good. So my name is Teresa Strong Myrick, and there's so much to my story. But I am a former police officer, victim advocate, child and family counselor. I'm currently a neurotransformational life coach, a #1 best-selling author, and a speaker, right? And I also like to say, but that comes from a young girl who grew up not knowing her voice, thinking that she was not worthy to be heard, that she was not important, that she could disappear and nobody would miss her.
I relate.
Yeah, so and I learned that just because of my surroundings. No one directly said that to me, but I grew up in a home where there was violence, and my stepfather never spoke to me directly. He just, one time told my mother, tell that girl to go and run my bath. Right? Yeah, so he never spoke to me. And then when my brother was born, brother had all the attention in the world. So it just further compounded the fact that I wasn't important. To my mom, I was the world, but that one right there, right? Because my father had been murdered. So he was the male figure in my life. And when he didn't acknowledge me or, tell me that he didn't say anything. So it was like I didn't even exist. So I internalized that. And just from my past and from my professional positions and jobs, I just come to understand that it's all in hurt. He was acting out of his past hurt. My mom was acting out of hers because she was accepting the behavior. And I just figured, you know what? The people I was helping, the people I was helping as a police officer, victim
Mm-hmm.
advocate, it was
Mm-hmm.
all because they had stuff. They had stuff that was unresolved. And I figured, you know what? They need more. They need more than services. They need more than, just people talking to them and at them. They need to be heard. They need to move that energy
Mm-hmm.
because I remember the energy. I could talk, I would write, but that energy just would not move. And it kept me paralyzed. It kept me paralyzed. I believed that
Mm-hmm.
story about not being worthy until I was
Mm-hmm.
really in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's now that I've come to a place where I made a decision that I was going to heal. And
Yes.
because of that, I am now helping others. I'm able to speak. I'm able to use my voice and found that there was magic in my voice. Found that, that little whisper that was in my ear
Yeah.
saying, you're going to tell your story one day, that I was kind of ignoring, like, not me, because I'm not speaking in front of anybody. And I'm
Right.
definitely not telling all my business.
Right. I hear that one.
Right?
What really stands out to me is like, tell that girl. Like, really?
Yeah.
Tell that girl. That is just, oh man. I know that with my own life too, I always felt like I was just, I was either hiding in a closet or something to stay away so I wouldn't be hurt. But I also felt like I was just kind of like a figurine or an object, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Um, and you're talking about need that the folks that you are helping isn't need more services, need to be heard. And another thing that I feel like in my journey that I've discovered is we all need to belong too.
Right.
To belong somewhere. Like why tribe is so important. We are in, similar tribes here. And
Right.
um
And that's why
just
telling our story is so important too.
it is. It is.
Because you know how long, I don't know about you, but I know how long I thought I was the only one. I
Mm-hmm.
thought I was
Oh
the
yeah.
only one living the way I was. I was the
Mm-hmm.
only one who had violence. I was the only one who had been molested. I was the only
Yep.
one.
Mm-hmm.
So I was isolated in that. So just telling
Yes.
our stories lets people know that people who they believe or feel are doing so much, never had anything wrong with them, that they
Mm-hmm.
too
Mm-hmm.
had some issues, went through some things, and I can't even say had issues, but went through some things, some
Yeah.
bad things were
Yeah.
done to them. And like you said, and there's hope in knowing that
Mm-hmm.
they overcame. We overcame.
Yeah. Yeah. We got back up. You
Yeah.
were mentioning too how, well, I'm not going to tell my story. I can't be a speaker. I can't do this. But there was something inside you that told you you would. And I had mentioned I did a pre-recording of a podcast for later yesterday. And one of the things I mentioned on there was I was always afraid and I always felt like I was in this little cave, but I always saw light, which to me was God, just like these little cracks in a cave that I knew someday what I was going through would mean something. And I think it sounds like
Nice.
the same for you,
Yeah,
different
I
way, but mm-hmm,
right, because my way of coping, because I wouldn't speak about it,
mm-hmm,
was
mm-hmm,
and when I tell you I didn't speak, I rarely talked. I rarely. And I remember reading a story about Maya Angelou, how she stopped
love
talking
her.
after a trauma, right?
Yep.
And I didn't stop talking, but if you weren't speaking to me, I wasn't speaking. If you asked me a question, I would give you an answer that I thought you wanted to hear. I never
Mm-hmm,
expressed my
mm-hmm.
opinion. I never would offer my thoughts on anything, even throughout school. I was very smart, but I'm not the one to raise my hand and ask a question because I didn't want to be wrong because I needed to be perfect. That's a whole nother subject. But
Yeah.
so
Yep.
I was quiet for a long time, but I remember, and it might have been in high school, I remember a young lady coming to speak to us, and she was telling her story on how she had gotten pregnant, had a baby, and no one thought that she was going to succeed. So she was telling us
Mm-hmm,
her success stories, and I could hear,
mm-hmm.
I could hear. The little voice saying, you're going to do the same thing. Okay. And I never spoke that out loud either. I was like,
Yeah,
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 okay. I don't think I'll be
yeah.
doing that. But it's always been there. So,
Mm-hmm.
as I, like I said, as I began to shift that stuff from the past, as I
Mm-hmm.
began to look at it differently, as I began to understand that there is power in our past,
Mm-hmm.
there's power from our hurts. I often say not to allow your hurts to hinder you, but to, propel you,
Mm-hmm.
because there is something you garner from every situation. And we oftentimes spend so much time focused on the negativity that we don't give enough energy to the blessings.
Right.
Yeah, so it just came to me just from the healing process, dealing with coaches and being asked just one time, look at that in a positive manner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Positive. Like
I hear you.
all this stuff that happened to me, positive. But it was because of that, and I was challenged with that I began to understand the power in that. The power
Mm-hmm.
in knowing that I learned discernment. I
Mm-hmm.
learned to be independent and stand on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I learned a lot of things from that, along with the negativity,
Right.
along with
Right.
the defense mechanisms,
Of
right?
course, we all have those. Something I want to touch on, we're going to break in a bit, but
Mhm.
something what you said, always saying what someone else wants to hear. You didn't really speak unless it was, somebody was either talking to you or, and what the answers you gave wasn't really authentic you. It
Nah.
was what you thought they wanted to hear. How come?
hmm
Like
Because
what
I
was, yeah,
because my because I really believe that what I had to say wasn't important. I
right.
didn't believe that I was smart enough to answer the
Mm-hmm.
questions, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to appease everybody because I didn't
Right.
want any negative energy towards me. So if
Mm-hmm.
I gave you what you wanted, then you would leave me alone.
Yeah. Oh, I asked this because I so relate to that. Whatever will kind of keep the peace, and then I can just kind of mosey on out of here,
Keep
and
the
we don't have
peace.
to talk anymore. Yep.
Keep
I
the
can just
peace.
go back to my safe spot, in my
It's
comfort zone, in my cave, in my wherever it was, under the table, whatever it was, you know.
Yeah, and I didn't want to cause
Oh,
any more chaos that was already existing in my house. I didn't want to add
mm-hmm.
to that chaos.
Right, right. What, at what point did you say no more of that? I'm going to be me.
I started in my 20s
Mm-hmm.
and I went all the way in my 40s. In my late 30s and
Mm-hmm.
40s, I went all the way in. No more excuses,
Yep.
no matter what. I had gotten tired of myself.
Oh, yes, I hear that. We do reach a point where, I never used to understand the phrase, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, oh my gosh, right?
I didn't get it,
Yes. Oh gosh, yes.
right?
It's you.
Exactly. And you're
I
going to
went to
follow
counseling.
you wherever you go.
Right. And I went to counseling to find out what was wrong with everybody else. Like, what's wrong with them? That's why I need counseling because I need help to understand them better.
Them, yeah,
And found
because
out it was really me.
it ain't me. I get you. So we are going to take a break, but I would like to go more into that. What made you decide that there was going to be no excuses and no matter what? So before we go to break, where can these lovely people find you?
They can find me on social media at T Strong Speaks, TEE Strong Speaks, as well as my website, MightyStrongNetwork.com.
Awesome. We will be back soon and we will come back to standing up for ourselves. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Teresa Myrick, and we've been talking about standing up for ourselves, speaking up for ourselves, not saying what everybody else wants to hear, but speaking our truth. And Teresa was going to talk about when she decided no more saying what everybody else wants to hear.
So this actually happened pretty dramatically for me as I remember it. And it was like towards the end of 2013.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting ready to go to a party, a
Mm-hmm.
Christmas party. Prior to then, I had not done much for myself. My
Mm-hmm.
husband had a major stroke, so I was
Mm-hmm.
caregiver, number one breadwinner at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
he was adjusting to his new roles and his new limitations, and it
Yes.
was hard for him, and it was just a difficult time. It was a difficult time. By that time, we were kind of 3, 4 years in, so we had,
Mm-hmm.
done some adjusting, but I went to this party. I remember going to go shopping and buying an outfit, and was not quite comfortable because I was like, dang, I've gained some weight. But I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm be cute anyway. We're just gonna have some
Yeah.
fun. So
Right.
I go, I sit, and I'm looking around and talking. And I think no, when I walked in the door, someone snapped a picture of me.
Uh-huh.
Someone snapped a picture of me. So I sat down, started talking and mingling. It was kind of slow, so I went on
Yeah.
Facebook, and guess what I see? I see that picture already posted.
Oh, Lordy, that's quick.
Yes. And when I saw the picture, I looked and I was like, who is that? I didn't even recognize myself.
Mm,
And it wasn't just the weight, it was a representation of me not taking care of myself
mm,
mentally, emotionally, just everything. Spiritually, I just like, wow. And that was literally the moment where I said, I got to get myself together.
uh-huh.
And I knew why I wasn't together because I wasn't speaking what was in my heart to speak. I was
Mm-hmm.
still trying to make everybody comfortable and everybody feel good. And I was ignoring all the health things that I knew I should be taking care of because I
Right.
was so enmeshed in making everything in the household work.
Yes. Oh boy, us mamas, right?
Yeah, making
Mm-hmm.
everything work because I was
Mm-hmm.
still working full time. I was still, concerned about my husband and his health. I had teenage boys who were doing
Mm-hmm.
just I had what a teenage boy, two teenage boys, and my youngest I think was like 8
Mm-hmm.
at the time. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of moving parts, a lot of things going on, but I was not. I had at that point no goals, nothing, no desires I could pinpoint. I was moving towards nothing. I was just being whatever needed to be at the time, just going with the
Yep.
flow of whatever. I've never operated like that. I've always had goals. I always had things that I was working towards. But in
Mm-hmm.
that moment, I saw that I could just done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was doing something, but I wasn't doing anything for Teresa.
Right.
So that's when I made the decision like, this is not going to work. It's not going to work for me, and it's not going to work for you all. Because the household, although it was functioning, it was not functioning well.
Right.
Right? It was the people, there were, all of us were walking around with unsaid words.
Right.
All of us were walking around with unspoken hurts. We were not having the
Mm-hmm.
hard conversations because they were just too hard.
Right. Right.
We
You
had too
know,
much other stuff going on, so nobody really wanted to have the hard conversations.
mm-hmm.
I was not facing the truth of my situation,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wasn't voicing what I really and truly needed to voice.
Right.
I
Right.
made the decision that I could not go another year doing that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Could not. Because I'm looking at my life and wondering, what do I have to show for it?
Right. I hear that.
Yeah, what do I
Mm.
have to show for it? If I left here today, what have I left behind?
Right.
And that was enough to shake me up and say, okay, at first I had to start with my spiritual, then my health.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I, first got the inkling to start a business of my own
Mm-hmm.
and start to really look at my life and what I really wanted to accomplish and to get that process started. Not knowing how, not having all the resources, but I just knew that that had to be it. And I couldn't waste any time. I was just getting older. I was young
Right.
as I was ever going to be at that moment.
And you need to, yeah, you need to take charge of that. I had a guest say recently that when she was in a state that you're talking about, I'm familiar, all of us who are, especially in personal development, we come to these points. She said someone asked her, she said, you come up to her real close and ask her, are you even breathing? Isn't that powerful? And that's when she knew, it was like, she knew, like, oh, and it wasn't a picture for her. It was like someone saying, are you even breathing?
Yeah, yeah. But just looking at myself and not recognizing who
Mm-hmm.
I was, what I
Mm-hmm.
stood for, where I
Mm-hmm.
was going, what I was doing with my
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a job that was miserable for me,
Right.
and I was just doing all the things and not really paying attention to my God-given purpose, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wasn't tapping into any of that. That's like, and I knew there was more to my life than that.
Right.
I knew that.
I am sure you were getting downloads. I am sure that God was talking to you and telling you things, but you were just like, but I've got to get this and I've got to make sure my husband's okay. I got to make sure my kids are okay. I got
I
to
had
go
to
to work. I
keep,
got to, got to, got
I,
to, got to, got to. Yeah.
I kept waiting,
Yeah.
waiting for when. When this happened, then I'll. When
Uh-huh.
this happened, then I'll do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what
Yep.
happens? Something else always comes up and we don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to just draw that line in the sand and say, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to even be major. It just has to be something. It has
Mm-hmm.
to be something. At that time, like, because I was looking at my weight and I knew I wasn't feeling and moving the way I wanted to. That was the first thing I like physically did,
Mm-hmm.
was to
Mm-hmm.
address what I was consuming. That
Yeah.
was like the first thing, because that was easy to control. The next thing was to get involved and start attending church. That
Mm-hmm.
was the other thing for me, because I had a fallout with the church, so I wasn't going there, knowing that for me, that was important. So those are the things I started, and it was at the end of 1 year, so it was easy to say, okay, when this next year come 2014, that's what we're going to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
was so emotionally attached to the results that I was trying to create, that I really got in motion, and I've stayed in motion since,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because
I,
that's how
I
committed I was.
I got you. And for me, it was 2014 as well. For me,
Wow.
get that diagnosis of cancer. All right, what are you waiting
Oh,
for?
girl. Yes.
There's no other time. If you're not going to do something now, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And that was my wake up call. So we
Right.
get those if we're willing to pay attention. And like something you had said a little bit ago too about somebody was telling you like to look for the good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Find the
Right.
blessings and
Positive.
yeah,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
blessings and the lessons. Did you, once you started taking charge of things, start seeing those blessings? Once you decided to start speak for yourself, did you start seeing those?
So the way I'm here, the way that's translating for me is this: as I started to address my stuff, my
Mm-hmm.
issues,
Mm-hmm.
and get the healing that I needed,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, I was so much better able to relate
Mm-hmm.
to what was going on with my family members,
Mm-hmm.
particularly my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the breakthroughs I had. As I began to heal, I began to see the blessings in my marriage, and
Mm-hmm.
the blessings in parenting. The That's when I was able to see the blessings, because when
Mm-hmm.
I was hurting, all I could see, all I could feel was the hurt.
Right.
I
Right.
was blinded by that. But once I started to get some relief from those old feelings and those old emotions, and understand how they were showing up in my now, my
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then I was able to relate to other people so much better, and they to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm more expressive. I can tell you what was going on with me. I can now translate why I was feeling the way I did when you said or did what you said what you said or did what you did. This is
Right.
why that bothered me so much. I didn't understand that then. Now I
Mm-hmm.
understand it.
Right. Right. Mm. You
So
kind of
it
step back a little bit, right? You kind of step back and see more.
Yes, you can see more of the picture
Mm-hmm.
because you were blinded. You had on these colored shades or
Mm-hmm.
glasses, and you
Yep.
couldn't fully see, and everything you saw was pink or orange or green. But when you take that film off, then you can see things for as they really are. You can see the truth of it, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we do put on layers of protection. And then we start diving in a bit and start removing some of them and just start living more from ourselves. One of my guests also had said something about she didn't really know how to meditate at the time or really get in touch with God. It was just like she just had the notion to start walking, sometimes 16 miles a day.
Oh, wait.
That was her only meditation, the only way she could feel some kind of freedom
Mm,
and some kind of guidance. So we're
yeah.
going to break again in a minute here. And we're going to come back and talk about, you have two books, a brand new one, which is so cool. I have not had the opportunity for your second one, but I have you read your first one, and it's wonderful, people. Order.
Yay.
Oh, and also what I want to do is give everybody the opportunity to call in and ask Teresa any questions. Our number here is 800-930-2319. And Teresa, where again can people find you?
Find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram at T Strong Speaks, TEE Strong Speaks, and on my website, mytstrongnetwork.com.
Awesome. We'll be back, everyone, and we're going to talk about Teresa's new book and how it came to fruition. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. I want to give the phone number again for anybody who wants to call in to ask Teresa or myself questions. The number is 800-930-2319. So, Teresa, you have one book and now two. So I will let you, I mean, I have the name of your book, but I'll let you describe it and where this one came about or came from. I know the first one, but not this
Yes,
one.
so this second one is called Unstrong. This was born out of I actually lost my mom in June of 2020 and my husband in December of 2020.
Oh,
And it's been an incredibly sad time. I tell folks all
yes.
the time it hasn't been extremely hard. This has not been my hardest year, but it has been my saddest. And
Yeah.
with that came, I have always, my maiden name is Strong,
Mm-hmm.
hence the Teresa Strong Myrick. So I've
Yeah.
always had this little play with the word strong
Mm-hmm.
and trying to be strong and live up to the name. I'm
Right.
proud of my last name. I'm proud of the family. However, I always felt this incredible need to be strong,
Mm-hmm.
strong for
Mm-hmm.
everyone else, strong for my mother, strong for my little brother. And strong to me meant that I didn't show any emotions, that I
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like stoic and solid and, I could handle everything. I really didn't
Mm-hmm.
need any help from anybody. I got because I'm a
Yeah.
strong black woman. Yes, I got
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm educated. I got the good job and, you know, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what happened when I lost both of them in the way that it happened is it challenged everything I knew about being strong.
Mm-hmm.
And when people kept coming up to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, you're so strong," because outwardly and in public, they didn't see me crying or breaking down or having,
Mm-hmm.
any reaction that they can label.
Yeah.
They would say, "Oh, you're so strong." And finally, I heard it, and what came up to me was, is it this visual appearance that makes you feel that I'm strong? Because that's not it. That
Mm-hmm.
is not the definition of strong, the way what you see on this outside here. The
Yeah.
strength that I do have is internal. The
Mm-hmm.
strength that I have is not because I haven't, I'm not asking for help, that I'm not crying, I'm not breaking down. I have
Mm-hmm.
finally gotten to the point where I know what real strength is. And
Mm-hmm.
that has been built over time with me
Mm-hmm.
taking care of myself, with me
Mm-hmm.
focusing in on my healing, for me
Yeah.
getting spiritually connected. That's why I'm able to handle this in this manner. But
Mm-hmm.
it does not mean that I don't have moments of weakness. It meant that I had tapped in and understood that I needed some help and I asked for it. And thank God I received it. And I was receptive of it. I was thankful for it. I felt no kind of way about it because I needed that help. Doesn't mean I didn't cry for 3-4 days after my mama died. It doesn't mean that I don't cry now. It doesn't mean that I haven't had to call in because I was crying so much I couldn't focus. I could not focus, clear my eyes up enough to drive. It doesn't mean that. Right? So when I wrote the book Unstrong, it was me tapping into those things that really and truly make us strong. Not the strong that we're trying to portray to other people, and not the one that's dictated by what society's definition of strong, but that real inner stuff that we can take with us, that we can tap into, the strong that's everlasting.
Yeah.
So that's what that's what this book is about. And I am really focused on those strong friends. We always hear about the strong friend, and it's for those folks, right, who are always leaned upon, those who are taking control of everything in their professional lives, in their personal and family lives. They're that person who everyone says, oh, she has all, like my friends would say, it never looked like anything was ever wrong with you.
Right.
They would say, it just, you always had it together. So we didn't know that you needed help. We didn't know that you were going through these things.
Yep.
Then I, on the other hand, I was sometimes resentful and sometimes just like bitter because y'all come to me for everything. Who can I go to?
Right. Right. I so relate to that. Yep.
And nothing is, and not to say anything bad about that friend or those friends, but they just didn't have the capacity to support me the way I needed to be supported.
Exactly.
And I had taught them that I was good. When they asked me if I needed something, what did I say? Girl, I'm good. I got this. I'm all right.
Right. Right. I totally get that. I actually have a friend now who anytime anything goes wrong, she comes to me, but never once through cancer, through death, all the deaths that I've had in my family as well. Never. And it's just kind of strange. But then she expects like, oh, I haven't heard from you.
Because see, you have the capacity to deal with that because of who you are. But she does not have the capacity to hold your stuff. You got to go find somebody else.
Oh, exactly.
And that's the thing, right? We have all these expectations on other people. It's like they wish they could, they just can't.
Exactly. And once we learn that,
right,
we can release and let them go and not be upset,
Yes. So that's what the book is about.
Awesome.
The book is absolutely about this, about taking off the mask of strong and becoming unstrong, which doesn't mean weak. It just means building a strength, an inner strength that we can count on. That's it.
Right. And being vulnerable enough to ask, to share that, hey, I could use a hug, or hey, can we talk, or
it's all of that. Like unstrong, I'm gonna tell you what it stands for. So unstrong, the UN is uncaping, taking off the mask. S is self-assessment, knowing where you are in life and how you feel about where you are, being truthful about that. The T is the truth and transparency, being real with all your stuff.
Right.
The R is resilience, because that is that muscle right there. That's what strength is built upon, your ability to get back up, right? Resilience.
Yes.
The O is ownership. Own your stuff. Own how you have been a part of your own misery.
Yeah.
Own how, right? How you have allowed things to happen for whatever reason. Own that. The N is network. Network. Because you can't do this life alone. You're not meant to do this life alone. So that's the asking for help, the accepting help, being there for others, and getting to a place where you are attracting those who can help you as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the G, baby, is to go get it, to go to do your goal setting, to get in action. Is to go but go from a place of strength, inner strength. Go from a place of knowing what it is you really want to attract into your life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? The core of who you are. What do you really want? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And allowing yourself to have it once you find
Yes,
it, right?
yes. And
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you're worthy of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I remember talking to I think it might have been
Mhm.
Danita Saju. She's in our tribe, you know.
Yes.
And she lives like you do in Florida. And I said, I remember there was a time where I go visit the ocean. I've never had I've never been able to live there yet, but that's coming.
Mhm.
Um, and I would go to the ocean and I just like, oh wow, this is like magnificent. It's beautiful. It's everything, but don't like it too much because you're never going to be able to have it. That would always be in
Mm.
my head, like, oh,
Yes.
can I really have it? Now I believe I can, but at the time it's like, no, 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 don't get too attached to that.
Yes. Yeah, it's so funny how we put those restrictions on ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in a manner to
Mm-hmm.
protect ourselves, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Want to
Oh,
protect ourselves from the unknown, but the joy sometimes is in what we don't know,
yeah.
because what we do know has gotten us here.
Mm-hmm.
What we do know
Exactly.
has gotten us here. It's the unknown where we really find our purpose and our joy and our meaning
Mm-hmm.
is over there in that unknown.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And it's scary. Let's face
Of
it.
course, of
It's
course.
hard to step out there.
Mhm.
Um, but once we do, oh man, you know,
Yeah.
I I am so grateful for taking that leap, even jumping into Sean Smith's community and
Hmm.
allowing people to coach me, taking that on, investing in myself. Boy, does it change, right? And then
Yes.
Lisa Nichols, oh boy, another game changer. Just
Yeah. And that's the key, allowing ourselves to get the healing, allowing ourselves to
mm-hmm.
go back and touch some of those pain points, but being
Yeah,
supported and knowing that they can help you to get through it. Because
right.
I'm so big on you going to deal with those things, but not trying to deal with those things on your own. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have the right support to get you to a place where you can move through it, not get stuck back in it.
Oh gosh, yes. I think
Hmm.
therapy was, you know, me speaking anyway, therapy was really great to help resolve some of my past trauma. But to really move forward, I needed a coach. There was no
Yeah,
way I was getting there without that. There was no way that I'm going to do it myself. You got to have that
absolutely.
accountability. And you got to have
Hmm.
somebody like us that will go to the depths of the ocean with you, that will
Yes.
swim down there with you and
Hmm. And bring
ask
you
you
back
those
up
questions. Yes.
and
And
guide you back up. That's the part right
yes,
there.
yes, yes. And not be afraid to ask those questions.
Oh, yes. To
Not be afraid to have your
challenge.
client mad at you. I'm not
Hmm.
afraid of any of that anymore. It's like I will
No,
ask those deep questions with permission,
of
but I
course.
will
Of
ask those deep
course.
questions. Yes. So we're going to go to break again. And what I would like to touch on, if it resonates with you, is unresolved hurt.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that's something that I know for me, and I believe, I'm not sure if this is your truth or not. I fully believe my cancer was a result of resentment. Fully believe
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
And forgiveness and touching on those things, I feel, um, well, can kind of cure you of just about anything.
Mm.
So we are going to go to break, but let's tell everybody where they can reach you again.
Again, on Facebook and Instagram at T Strong Speaks. That's TEESTRONG Speaks. And my website, MightyStrongNetwork.com.
Awesome. And everyone, again, one more time, if you want to call in the next segment, it's 800-930-2319. We'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today, Teresa Myrick, and I have been talking about, well, all kinds of wonderful things. But what we want to go into now is unresolved hurt. When we left to go on break, I was talking about how I had colon cancer, cured in 2015. But 2014, I was diagnosed with it, and I know full well that it was from resentment. My, well, I had read the book, and somebody had turned me on to Louise Hay's, Heal Your Life.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, and I read that and I'm like, holy wow. Yeah, I was very resentful of my father for the abuse, physical abuse from him, for my parents letting three men, one being a police officer. I was molested and nobody did a thing about it on any of the times.
Mm.
And then just, well, other things in my life that I was just filled with it. And that would be right. And it was also, to me, a very modest person, so humbling.
Yeah.
It's an embarrassing illness that you can't control certain body functions, as you can imagine. And wow, it was, I was newly married to my husband now, and it was just a year. And my mom had died 2 months before from dementia. And my sister was very sick. And then I got diagnosed. It's like, wow, oh boy. And that's when I started making changes in my life, big changes. I think I've always been in personal development since my 20s, but
Yeah.
it was then that it's like, okay, it's now or never. So
Hmm.
unresolved hurt for you, Teresa, what, I know it's pretty much your mission. It's what you want to help people with. What is your story around that? Like what, like a specific point around unresolved hurt for you?
Oh, to get specific, let me see. It, like I was telling you, it has permeated my entire life. I just didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
I just did not know it. I can. I think the major part of my unresolved hurt was just me not living my purpose and not
Mm-hmm.
recognizing what it was.
Gotcha.
That's where it had the most, like it showed up so many times, particularly in relationship and intimate relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because I because I grew up in domestic violence and was also molested. I had certain beliefs about intimate relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So a I could not accept a disagreement in an intimate relationship. I could not handle any anger of any sort coming
Mm-hmm.
towards me because I automatically thought that that was going to be a fight. So when someone was expressing a disagreement or someone was raising their voice at me, I was preparing to defend myself physically.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to avoid that, I would leave or I would shut down completely, not say a word, and that's how I controlled the situation. So that's how it began to show up in my adult life was that I could not handle clear communication.
Right. Right.
I shut down. I couldn't. If you weren't agreeing with me, there was no conversation.
Right.
So,
Right.
and it showed me as well how I controlled situations with my passive aggressiveness, which
Mm-hmm.
I learned. Right, that's how I kept myself safe when I was coming up. Is that I couldn't express it, but I could do things to keep myself safe. I could disappear. I could put myself in a different place and mindset. It was just different things that I did just very passively to help
Mm-hmm.
myself deal with the situation. But
Yes.
not dealing with that negatively affected all my relationships. It affected my household, um, how I dealt with management at work. I was labeled difficult to manage because I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't accept criticism.
Right.
I couldn't accept you telling me to did something wrong
Mm-hmm.
or didn't do something
Mm-hmm.
right because I was perfect.
Of course. Of course.
Because I had worked so hard on the thing, you can't tell me that I did it wrong.
Right.
It affected me. I was difficult and I'm very decisive.
Mm-hmm.
Very decisive. That's good on some points, but on other points, I wasn't asking for any help. I
Mm-hmm.
just made a decision and went ahead and did it.
Right. Right.
So, and it may not sound all that bad. I'm like, because I'm not talking about like, my unresolved hurt ended up in, like dependency in terms of drugs and alcohol and those sort, because those are other effects. It didn't cause me to be extremely depressed. It didn't
Right.
cause me to, be severely overweight or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it tremendously affected my ability to relate to people,
Right. Right.
which hindered me.
Mm-hmm.
It hindered me because I I wouldn't put myself out there
Mm-hmm.
for the fear of not living up to other people's expectations.
Right. Gosh. Yep. Yep.
Right. And then you get to a place of healing where now it's like, I really don't care what y'all think. I need to get this out because this is what I have been ordained to do. This is
Mm-hmm.
what my purpose is. My purpose is to do this. My purpose is to help you get to a place where your unresolved hurt isn't controlling your entire life. That you
Right.
are not living in a place where you are feeling, I mean, you're not content with your life. You feel bitter and resentful, and you are
Mm-hmm.
harboring unforgiveness, and it's not doing you any good, but you're still pleasing everybody else, but you're not pleasing yourself.
Right. Right.
So at the end of that, where are you? What do you leave behind? Who do you
Mm-hmm.
influence? Whose life do you
Right.
change or and make better?
What
How do
legacy
you
do you leave?
how do you encourage your children when you can't even deal with your own stuff?
Right.
How can you
Right.
love? How can you love when you haven't even learned how to love yourself? You can't even
Right.
recognize love because you haven't felt that. And I say this, but you can't understand it until you get here.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people think that, oh, I love other people much more than I can love myself. That's not true.
No.
That's not what you're giving them. Love is not what you're giving them.
I didn't get that either. I didn't
Yeah,
get that
yeah,
at all.
yeah.
Even like what I love everybody. What's going on here?
Mm-mm.
I totally relate. So we have, and I know you and me, we could talk for days.
Yes.
We have just a couple minutes left. What would you like to leave our listeners with today?
I would like to challenge them to
Mm,
be willing to give yourself permission to get to know
yes.
who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
I would challenge you to look at your life and see how much of it has been dictated by other people and
Mm-hmm.
how much of it is really yours.
That's good. That's good. Be willing to really look at yourself, see yourself for who you are, because you've got a
Hmm.
big purpose.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yep.
You
Yep.
have an individualized purpose, an
Mm-hmm.
individualized plan
Yep.
that only you can do, that only you can execute, and
Yeah.
only your people will hear you. Only
Oh,
your
yeah.
people. Only the folks who are ordained and designed for you will understand and get, and that's enough. That's just
Ah, that's perfect. So before we end, where can your folks find you?
at T Strong Speaks on Facebook, Instagram. I share a lot of inspiration on
Yes,
there.
she does.
If you are interested in any of my materials, you can go to mightystrongnetwork.com. It's mytstrongnetwork.com.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I'm privileged and honored to have you here with me today. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you to all our guests for being here. Remember, we are every second and fourth Friday of the month, and 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Transformation with Martine. Did listening today spark a sense of hope and possibility? Hold on to this feeling and tune in every second and fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for more inspiring conversations with Martine and her guests. They will show you there is hope, and you are right where you need to be. Martine is dedicated to supporting you right where you are while launching you towards promise, passion, and possibility that leads to the fulfilled life your heart aches for. If you're tired of being stuck, schedule a complimentary consultation with Martine and get on the exciting path towards the life you want to be living. Visit martineemmons.com and make your appointment today.